Hi, my name is Pras and I'm one of the owners of Dr. Multimedia. Today I wanted to take a quick couple minutes to educate some of our clients on an important issue regarding domain names. Unfortunately, a lot of our doctors don't know what a domain name is, so it makes it very difficult for them to know how to manage one, what to do in terms of buying one, or where they should leave it and have it registered and maintained. So I thought we could start with the basics and just walk through a couple steps here and get to the most important part, which is ensuring that you own your own domain name, which is something a lot of doctors don't do, but definitely a very important step for you and your business. So a domain name is essentially the address of your website on the internet. Our domain name is drmultimedia.com. Of course, you've heard of google.com. So yourpractice.com or .net or .biz, that is what people mean when they say your domain name. It's essentially the address or the identifier of your property on the internet. Now, ownership of this is very important, and a lot of people confuse their domain name with their website. So your website is what shows up when you visit your domain name, but it doesn't mean that they're one and the same. So by that I mean that you can have multiple websites, or you can change your website without changing your domain name. So the first version of Dr. Multimedia does not look like what you see today, and when we went from that version to the current version, the domain name stayed the same, but the website itself changed. So how is that possible? Well, the reason that that can happen is that a domain name simply points to a certain direction. So if you're our client, your domain name will point over to us at drmultimedia.com, and what we've built for you will appear. Meanwhile, if you were someone else's client, the domain name would point over to their company and what they had built for you, and that would appear. So launching a new website is really the equivalent of changing where your domain name points, and then the finished product that you've been working on shows up and voila, it's a new website, even though the domain name's not any different. Now, the biggest mistake that we see doctors make is that they either give up or never had ownership of their domain name. So that in a sense is a little bit confusing. So how do you even go about buying or owning a domain name? Well, when you want to get a new address on the internet, there's a number of companies you can go to. The most famous by far is GoDaddy, but there's certainly a lot of other ones like Network Solutions, Enom, Wix can register domain names. So there's a lot of companies out there that will sell you the rights to the domain name. Now, it's very important to realize that you're essentially renting or leasing these rights. That's why you pay $10 for a year, or you can maybe you can renew it for 5 years or 10 years. So you can pick the term that you want to own it, but eventually, if you stop paying for the rights, you won't get to keep it. It will go back into the pool of domain names that are available for sale. So when you go on to, let's say, GoDaddy, and you find the perfect name for your website, and you buy it, now it is essentially yours for the amount of time that you've paid for it. So you can control where that domain name points. You could have emails created with that domain name. You could forward that particular address to another domain name and another website if you wanted to. And you could also just keep it so that no one else could buy it. But in all those scenarios, you own it because it's sitting in an account that you have the username and password to, and you can make decisions as to what happens with that domain name, regardless of anybody else. And of course, you are on the hook for the bill, so you do have to renew the bill each year or each 5 years in order to keep the domain name in your account. If you fail to renew the bill or you just cancel it, you again can lose that domain name. You'll still have a username and password, but the domain name won't be in there. So a lot of doctors, they either have a company buy a domain for them, or they switch to another provider and they actually give them their domain, because this makes it easier to manage in theory. It's one less thing for you to worry about. We understand that you're not sure the difference between a domain or a host or a server or the website. So why bother with any of that when the company that's running your website could just manage it for you? And while it sounds easier, it actually can be a recipe for disaster depending on who you trust with your domain name. So there are a lot of companies out there that when you use them for your website, they actually take your domain name or they put your domain name into their account. The problem with this is that you lose control, you lose the rights, you lose ownership. Meaning that you don't have a username and password that you can sit down, log in with, and control the domain. This can be damaging for a number of reasons. One is that you can't make any of those changes, which means that someone else can. So someone else is deciding where your domain name points, whether or not it's being renewed, how the emails work in your domain. Probably the bigger issue is that you are now handcuffed to whoever has it. Meaning if you want to leave, if you want to work with another provider, if you just have a disagreement, they can hold your domain name hostage. And one of the worst parts is that the companies like GoDaddy or Network Solutions, they can't help you out. Just because you're the rightful owner of the business doesn't mean you're the rightful owner of the domain name. And whoever's name is on the account, whoever's email is attached to the account, those are the people that can control it. And you can't just say, well, they took it from me, but it's really mine, and have that be an answer that's going to work. These companies go by what's on the account. So the reason I'm making this video is that more and more when we sign up our clients, we realize that, hey, they don't own their domain name. They don't have a username and password to their domain. And no fault of your own, I'm not here to make you feel bad, but more point out that if no one had ever explained this to you before, you may not have seen any importance or value to it, so why bother? But no matter who you're working with, what company you want to go with in the future, or who you're switching from, the first step is to make sure that either you have access to your domain or that it's in the hands of someone or a company that you wholeheartedly trust and you know you can access it any time. If you do not have the username and password to your domain, please let the first thing you do after you watch this video be to start the process of getting it. So let's say, for example, that you're an iMatrix client. Whether you realize it or not, when you started with them, they likely took your domain name in an effort to launch their website. They do that because it's a lot easier for them if they're in control of everything. I've had doctors that thought they were just sharing the username and password to their domain with iMatrix, only to learn later that iMatrix had removed it from their account. So just because you have a username and password doesn't mean that the domain is still in there, and it's worth verifying that even if you do think you own your own domain. But the second you lose it, you lose control over what's happening with your business. Just like you would want to have the deed to your house, just like you would want to have the key to the security deposit box at your bank, you want to make sure that you have the essential information to get what you need when you need it and not have to go through third parties. So if you are an iMatrix client and after this video you are starting the process of getting your domain, it's important not to accept excuses or confusion or someone trying to talk you out of this idea. It's a very black and white concept. I would like my domain, please give it to me. As any Dr. Multimedia client knows, if we're managing your domain and you want it and you ask for it, you can have it right away. Of course, then you do need to manage it, and if the bill is due, make sure to pay it. We've dealt with that situation, but we're more than happy to turn it over because this is what we believe in. If the company you're asking to give you your domain name isn't able to just instantly complete that request, that's a major red flag. If they're making it difficult, if they're holding it hostage, if they're saying they'll do it but they don't, something is going on and that should not sit well with you. Hopefully after you see the importance of having your domain name, the fact that anyone's trying to keep you from getting it would really be a sore spot and tell you what kind of company you're doing business with. So in a perfect world, it's as simple as, I would like my domain name, please give it to me. Oh sure, no problem, here's the username and password to the account. Or, no problem, please tell me your account information so we can transfer the domain over to there. It should be fairly instant or take just a couple of days and then verify that it's in. But if they say something like, well, you need to cancel your services, or we don't do that for our clients, you need to really draw a line in the sand, because you're simply being taken advantage of, and they're preying on the fact that you might not really understand the issue, and so you're not able to separate what you should have and what you shouldn't have. A lot of the clients that we've had that have come from iMatrix have had a very difficult time getting control of their domain name. We have videos of these clients outlining it. We've seen reviews left on iMatrix's page about the fact that they can't get their domain name or they've taken it. They literally make you jump through hoops by forcing you to call in, submit cancellation requests, wait for a call back, all for a process that should just take a couple of minutes. So if you are an iMatrix client and you do not have your domain name, please, 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 as soon as you're done watching this, give them a call and explain to them that you would like to have control of your domain name. Regardless of what's going to happen between you and them in the future, regardless of anything else, the fact that they're currently responsible for this and you're a paying client should be enough for you to get what you want. You wouldn't accept the bank not giving you the money in your account. You wouldn't accept someone not giving you the deed to your house if you asked for it. You shouldn't accept someone not giving you your domain name upon request. So a little bit more about the process that you're going to go through to finally get your domain released. Now, they may assume that you're canceling, because kind of why else would you be asking for your domain name if not to change your website? But that's really not any of their business. But if they make you go through the process of canceling, that kind of says a lot about them. But at the end of that, they will try to save your business by making you special offers or seeing what the problem was or discouraging you from going with whatever company you've chosen. It's important to remember that you're the paying client. This is your business. This is your domain name. This is your livelihood. So you really shouldn't put up with any kind of excuse or anything that isn't just handing over your domain name. If they are trying to hold you hostage or use your domain name as leverage to try to retain your business, you should stop the conversation dead in its tracks, and you should say, listen, if you want me to consider using you in the future, what you need to do is get me my domain name. You need to give me the username and the password to the account that it's in. You need to let me verify that it's actually in there. Let me change the password so it's not what you have. And then, upon successful completion, I will continue listening to the things that you want to tell me about why I should continue using your services. But if you can't do that for me, why would I trust you to do anything else, especially taking care of my website and my online marketing needs? And if they respond with anything but complying to your requests, you realize that exactly what I've cautioned against today is happening to you, meaning you don't have control of your domain name, you're not in charge of it. If you needed something done and it's the weekend and they're not answering the phone, you're out of luck. If you call GoDaddy or Network Solutions or Enom and ask them to help you get access to it, they can't do anything for you because it's registered to iMatrix or whatever other company you're interacting with. So that's why it's important to own your own domain name. Now, once you understand that, if you choose to have a friend or a colleague or a company like ours manage it, that's of course acceptable because it's one less thing for you to worry about, but know what you're getting into. Know how you can contact that person if you need to. Know what email address is on file. Have your own information on file, right? We can help you manage an account that has your name, your email, but we log in and we pay the bill and we do all of those things. That's totally fine because ultimately you should have that for you and your business. Now, if you have any questions, if I've created some confusion and you're not sure, if you want to know how to check where your domain name is, who has it, if you need help getting it from your current company, please, please, please just give us a call. We're happy to help you out. Our phone number is below. It's 1-800-679-3309. Your pre-live representative, if you're building a website with us, will be more than happy to guide you through the process. But your hands are essentially tied. No matter what website we create for you, if you don't have access to your domain name, we'll never be able to launch it. You'll never be able to reap the benefits. So it really is step one. And through no fault of your own, Many doctors have been tricked into losing ownership of their domain name and not having the rights to something as basic that we really do compare it to the deed to your house, to the money in your bank account. It's that important. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope this was helpful. Please pass it along if you have friends or colleagues that are in the same situation as you. And please start the process right now, if you can, of gaining control of your domain name and having it in an account you can access. Thank you, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.